It is May 2026, Monaco Grand Prix weekend. In the paddock right now, Mercedes, Ferrari, Aston Martin, Alpine, Audi, Cadillac. Every major automotive brand that matters in motorsport is here. One isn't. The brand that won this race 4 times before the World Championship even had a name, Bugatti. And their CEO just told the world, on record, that modern motorsport simply isn't worth the effort. So what happened? How does the most dominant Grand Prix brand in history end up absent from the sport it helped create? Why did Volkswagen, who owned Bugatti for 23 years, never once put them on the grid? And why does the man who takes over say that out loud? This is the story of why Bugatti is not in Formula 1. Ettore Bugatti is standing in his factory in Molsheim. It is 1909. The building is small, barely more than a workshop. The walls are bare stone. The machines are second-hand. He is 28 years old, and he has just started his own company with almost no money. Italian by birth, French by choice. He approaches engineering the way other men approach religion. He isn't trying to build the fastest car, he is trying to build the most perfect one. A customer later complains the brakes aren't good enough. Ettore's response, "I build my cars to go, not to stop." That's the kind of man he is. 15 years later, Ettore will build the most dominant racing car in history. And a century after that, the brand he leaves behind will be missing from the biggest era Formula 1 has ever had. But that comes later. In August 1924, Ettore unveils the Type 35 at the Grand Prix de Lyon. Hollow-spoke aluminium wheels with integrated brake drums, a world first. A roller-bearing crankshaft that revs to 6,000 revolutions per minute. Bodywork so precisely formed it still looks modern 100 years later. Its first race is a disaster. A bad tire batch retires most of the field before half distance. Within 2 years, it is the most dominant racing car on Earth. By 1926, the Type 35 wins over 350 documented Grand Prix events. It takes the unofficial Grand Prix World Championship, 5 consecutive Targa Florio victories, a brutal 420-mile road race through the Sicilian mountains that destroys most cars that attempt it. Bugatti's own records claim 2,000 victories across all variants between 1924 and 1930. Credible historians put it closer to 1,000. Now, here's the thing most people miss. Ettore isn't funding most of those victories himself. He sells race-ready Type 35s directly to wealthy private drivers. His customers run their own programs, pay their own bills, and win every weekend across Europe. Ettore collects the headlines without the cost. It's the same structure Ferrari uses for its customer racing program today. Ettore didn't borrow the idea. He invented it a century earlier. His driver roster reads like a works team. Louis Chiron, the Monegasque ace, whose name Bugatti will later put on their most famous hypercar, Achille Varzi, and Tazio Nuvolari, the greatest driver of the era, who races a Bugatti before moving on. His departure is the first signal of what's coming. William Grover Williams wins the inaugural Monaco Grand Prix in 1929 in a Bugatti. René Dreyfus wins in 1930, running a privateer car with an oversized fuel tank that lets him skip a pit stop his rivals can't avoid. Louis Chiron wins in 1931, Achille Varzi in 1933. In that 1931 race, 16 of the 23 cars on the grid are Bugattis. It isn't really a Grand Prix. It is a Bugatti parade with one Alfa Romeo that finishes second. But Ettore Bugatti is about to learn something that every independent team in F1 history eventually learns. Money beats brilliance, every time. It is the 1934 German Grand Prix. 2 cars line up on the grid that nobody has seen before. Bare aluminium bodywork, no paint. Long, low, almost predatory. The Mercedes-Benz W25 and the Auto Union Type A. They are funded by the German government, built to prove industrial supremacy on racetracks across Europe. The drivers, Rudolf Caracciola and Bernd Rosemeyer, are the best in the world. Bugatti enters the Type 59. It is stunning. It is irrelevant. The Silver Arrows win 11 of the 12 Grand Prix races that year. Bugatti scores nothing. The sport is rewarding checkbooks now. And Ettore is a private factory in Alsace, going up against the full weight of Nazi Germany. He already knows what this is. Between 1934 and 1939, Ettore doesn't quit. He builds the Type 57, a grand touring car that Jean designs almost entirely himself. It wins Le Mans in 1937 and 1939. But that is the concession. a way of staying relevant in a sport that has moved past what Bugatti can afford. Jean is the one keeping the company alive in these years, 26, 27, 28 years old. He runs the engineering, he manages the drivers. Quietly, he is the reason Bugatti still exists at all. Ettore starts going to the races less. The sport he helped invent is going somewhere he doesn't want to follow. Driving out to the test road near the Molsheim factory. He is the best automotive engineer Ettore has ever worked with. John isn't next in line, he is the actual future. Ettore has handed him technical control. At this point, neither of them knows that this is the last morning. A course worker fails to clear the road. Jean swerves, loses control, and is killed at the scene. He is 30 years old. 18 days later, the Second World War begins. The Molsheim factory is seized in late 1940. German authorities strip it. Machines, tools, partially assembled cars. Some shipped east, some scrapped. The racing cars disappear. Ettore flees to Paris and spends the next 7 years filing legal documents, not building cars, fighting to get his building back month after month, through the occupation, through the liberation, through the chaos of post-war France. His friends describe him as diminished, still sharp, still precise, but quieter. The man who once said, "Nothing is too beautiful, nothing is too expensive," is now calculating court fees. On June 20th, 1947, a French court restores Molsheim to him. His son is dead. His racing program is dead. Formula One is 3 years away. 2 months later, on August 21st, Ettore Bugatti dies in Paris. Stroke, lung infection. He gets his factory back and is dead 2 months later. Without Ettore, the company has no one. Roland Bugatti tries through the 1950s. A handful of cars get built, none race at the top level. By the early 1960s, it is over. Hispano-Suiza buys what's left for the aerospace parts. The Bugatti name survives on landing gear. For nearly 30 years, that is all it is. In 1987, an Italian entrepreneur named Romano Artioli buys the name, builds a factory near Modena, and launches the EB110 in 1991. Quad turbocharged V12, carbon fiber chassis, 553 horsepower. Michael Schumacher buys one. There are conversations about Formula One. Nothing comes of them. In 1995, Bugatti Automobili goes bankrupt. Gone. Then Volkswagen. In 1998, Ferdinand Piech's Volkswagen Group acquires Bugatti and rebuilds everything. New Molsheim Atelier, 5 years of development. And then, in 2005, the Veyron, 1001 horsepower, a W16 engine, 2 V8s fused at the crankshaft, a top speed that required Michelin to develop an entirely new tire. Volkswagen loses money on every single one they build. The Chiron follows in 2016, 1500 horsepower, 2.4 million euros, all 500 units sold before the public ever sees the car. In 23 years, Volkswagen never enters a Grand Prix with Bugatti. They have Audi for racing, they have Porsche. Bugatti sits above all of that, present but untouchable. In 2021, Volkswagen hands Bugatti to a 33-year-old Croatian entrepreneur named Mate Rimac. He has spent the previous decade building one of the most important electric hypercar companies in the world from scratch. Rimac Group takes 55%, Porsche takes 45%. Mate Rimac becomes CEO, and almost immediately he says something about Formula One that makes the whole picture clear. It is November 2024, qualifying night at the Las Vegas Grand Prix. George Russell is about to take pole position, and parked along the strip, 20 Bugatti Chirons sit in formation, not racing, close enough to feel the heat, far enough away to stay completely untouchable. That image is the whole answer. In 2019, Bugatti runs a modified Chiron Supersport to 304.27 miles per hour at the Era-Lessian test track. No production car had ever broken 300. They don't race anyone. There is no rival. They go to a track, do something no road car has done, and go home. Bugatti sells roughly 80 cars a year. Ferrari sells 14,000. Bugatti's entire annual production would fit in Ferrari's customer parking lot at Monza. Every single one is sold before it exists. The waiting list is managed personally, not through dealerships, because Bugatti's customers aren't buyers. They're members of something. It's 2022. Mate Rimac is sitting in an interview with Top Gear. He's asked whether Bugatti will ever go racing again. And instead of the diplomatic non-answer, he says what he actually thinks. Racing used to justify itself through engineering. You went racing because extreme conditions forced technologies to develop faster than any road program could. active suspension, torque vectoring, systems that ended up in road cars because competition demanded them. His question, which motorsport series today actually does that? His answer, none of them. Think about what Ettore Bugatti does in 1924. Hollow spoke wheels with integrated brake drums, a world first, a crankshaft design nobody has attempted. He shows up and changes what a racing car can physically be. Rimax's argument is that Formula One no longer has room for that. The regulations are too specific, the architecture is prescribed, its execution within a narrow channel, and for a company built on doing what nobody else has done, that's the whole argument. And it's not just a philosophical position, it connects directly to what Bugatti is as a brand, and why Formula One would damage, rather than help it. Ferrari needs Formula One. Racing sustains desire in a mass audience, and Ferrari needs the world to keep caring. Bugatti doesn't have that problem. The people who buy Bugattis don't need a race result. They already know. Formula One's audience of hundreds of millions is not Bugatti's market. And the moment Bugatti enters Formula One, they have 11 rivals. The moment one of them wins, at Spa, in the wet, on a bad weekend, that image is permanently part of the brand. Ferrari survives that because Ferrari was built for battle. Bugatti wasn't. The numbers seal it. Formula One's cost cap for 2026 is $250 million a year, chassis only. Bugatti Rimax's total revenue in 2024 was around $365 million. One season consumes more than half of everything the company earns before a single lap. Audi has spent over 500 million euros before its first race weekend, more than Bugatti earns in a year and a half. In April 2026, Porsche sells its entire stake in Bugatti Rimax to HOF Capital, a New York venture capital firm. Volkswagen, which has owned Bugatti since 1998, exits the brand entirely. HOF Capital are investors. Their interest is the margin on 80 cars a year. The last theoretical argument, that the right owner might change the picture, just closed. Ettore Bugatti spent his last years in a Paris apartment, fighting through the courts to get his own factory back. He won, then died 2 months later. The brand he built won Monaco 4 times before Formula One had a name. It hasn't competed at the top level of motorsport since, not because it couldn't, because somewhere along the way, the sport became something Ettore Bugatti would not have recognized. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's the tragedy.